mic's going. Hey, everybody. Welcome to Mental Fitness. I am thrilled to have my favorite Republican, Christopher Maichin, back. He has been gone forever. Hello. He was like off having fun. And so we were going to do a show on my birthday, but thankfully Tim Peck came to the rescue and we did a morning show. That was funny. And now Christopher is in Lisbon, Portugal for school. And he's like talking to all these people in Portugal about what's going on in America. And his views are changing a little bit from the last time we talked about, what is his take being a Republican on the media, on the news, and what's happening with Trump and what is happening now. I believe there's been some shifts in his thinking, and I really want to deep dive. This is a very smart, empathetic, wonderful Republican who wants a unity building candidate for president, and I want a unity building Democrat candidate for president. And so let's just talk about ICE. Let's talk about what's happening in America. You are so freaking lucky. I'm so jealous you're not in our country right now. I could really use a little vacation from it. Let's talk about Venezuela a little bit, because it has been intense here. And then we have our own horrors in Indiana, Christopher. We have the state houses in session. They're trying to criminalize homelessness and defund libraries and hurt public schools. And it's literally too much for me to track and record and report on in my shows. So Christopher, how are you doing? Thank you so much for joining. I'm so glad you're here.
I'm happy to be here, Sarah. Thank you so much for having me. I'm happy we can make it work out with the time change and everything like that. So
what time is it there?
It's 12. It is 5 o'clock here. So 5 hours ahead.
So I just ate lunch and you're going to eat dinner after this. That's so funny. Okay. Well, thanks for making time. I just want to ask you a gazillion questions, since you are literally in a different country, on what news you are seeing. So you've been there for a while, right? How long have you been there?
For about 2 weeks now. And
then you're going to stay for a few more weeks too.
Yeah. I'm here until the end of January.
You've been there since someone died in ICE and it was recorded. You've been there since Venezuela. Let's start maybe with Venezuela. What did you hear happen? What was the European, Portugal? What are your friends? Can you just kind of give me what you are hearing about Venezuela situation? Because we're getting two totally different sides over here, like normal, the division. And then we also try to find the truth. But I just want to know, what are you hearing?
Yeah, well, I think this was one of the things that I was going to be intentional about talking to the teachers that I'm with about, and obviously if they're comfortable talking about politics, but when it's not the politics of your country, they are a lot more open to be able to talk about it, because you're not picking sides. You're not saying I'm a Republican or a Democrat, because that doesn't matter in Portugal, right?
So you don't have the divisive problem over there that we have here.
Near the divisive problem. And it's not this liberal hive mind. Sure, a lot of European countries are more to the left, I'd say. I think more people are more liberal in European countries, but at the same time, it's not some insanely far to the left, person that you would like an AOC or a Zohran Mamdani. There are people like that, but the general, consensus of, what they want people to do for people basically isn't, polarizing, I would say. And just talking to them.
That sounds refreshing. That sounds so refreshing.
It's very refreshing. And just talking to people, they're just like, oh my God, what the hell is going on in the United States?
That was my take. Yes.
Yeah, exactly. And from being here for 2 weeks only, I am being like, what the hell is going on? It's been, literally, I haven't been here for 2 weeks, and like you said, the ICE shooting and and Venezuela and just everything that's happened now.
Because we've got more protests, a lot more protesting down over here.
A lot more protests. Everything going on with Iran. There's a lot, and it's interesting because a lot of it has to do with a global perspective. And so people in Portugal, people all over the world, everything that the United States does has effects on every single other country. So those people are invested in our politics. Meanwhile, we may not be as invested in theirs. I don't know who the president of if they even have a president in Portugal, right? Things
Yeah,
like
that's
that.
interesting. Is it a prime
But they
minister?
know
What is it?
everything. Exactly. They know everything about
So
Trump.
they
They
know a
know
lot about America. So they're very well informed about our country, was we don't know a whole lot about Portugal.
exactly because every
I know a lot, Christopher, about Portugal when they were involved in the race to like go to America, the like Christopher
Mhm.
Columbus days, because I taught
Yeah,
that in fifth grade as a teacher.
yeah,
So
of
I can tell you
course.
a lot about Portugal then.
Exactly. But
Like
yeah,
I
so
understand why Brazil speaks Portuguese.
yes, exactly. And so you can get the base level stuff of all of that.
But I don't know
Um,
stuff about today. Yeah.
no, and neither do I. And that's just because everything, because we as Americans and just America in general is the number one world superpower, whether militarily, economically,
So the world is
everything,
paying attention. Europe,
they have to pay attention
they're
because
paying
what we
attention because
do
what we do
affects them.
matters. Right.
Yeah,
That's
exactly.
interesting.
So our
Yeah.
inflation goes up, their inflation goes up, right? It's
Wow.
the same exact thing because our economy drives the globalization in a globalized world. Um, so people are kind of like, whoa, but also not so quick to pick a side, right? A lot of people say that they don't like Trump. And I think a lot of that has to do with, these European countries have centuries of history longer than ours, right? We're a baby nation. We're only 250 years old, right? These countries have been around for thousands of years and have gone through major political and governmental changes. And
And
they have
world
lived
wars. Yeah.
and world wars
Yeah.
and territories being taken away and given back
Yeah.
to them. And like the people in Portugal would tell me, like Salar, I forget how long ago this was, but he was a fascist dictator who
Oh,
was the dictator
wow.
of Portugal, right? So we have,
So
and
they've had
all
their
across
own
all
dictators.
across the
That's
European Union,
interesting.
exactly. There's been, and because of those century longs of history, and we know about dictatorships in the past, authoritarian regimes in the past, especially from major colonizing nations like those of European nations, what they did to America, essentially. Remember that we came from Europe. That all is just, I don't know, what was the word for that? It's just, I don't know what was I saying before that?
So
Sorry.
like so they're more curious, concerned, not freaking out. They're more patient.
Hmm.
They're stepping back and just kind of observing and being like, this doesn't look good. Let's see how it
Yeah,
plays out.
exactly. Well, it's not even let's see how it plays out. It's more so they can be unbiased and not have to pick a side and agree with things that are happening on both sides and
Oh, I
agree with
wish we
some
would do that
aspects
in
of
this
things
country. Well,
and disagree with other aspects. And that's like, I think the way that me and you think a lot of the time. It's like there's
yes.
things that we like from both sides, right?
I would
But
prefer it if the person I don't like that's in power did good things for the world and our country.
exactly, exactly.
I
But
don't think
and
he
if
is,
we
but I
and we
wish he
go into
was.
Venezuela and we talk about Venezuela with the people in Portugal and the teachers there, and they agree like this needed to happen. Maduro was a true narco terrorist. There was human rights abuses going on all throughout that country. He's literally intentionally killing his own people, and the government and the cartel in
But
Venezuela are like that.
but Christopher, I got to push back on what you're saying here. The person in power right now, we believe is just as bad, if not worse, than the guy that our country kidnapped.
Exactly. Well, because they started
So,
to, but well, so that's the
I
whole
mean,
thing with,
the
but that's
Christopher,
not what Trump doesn't want this person in power.
wouldn't it make sense to have put in power the woman that ran against him and they didn't have a fair election and then she had
Yeah,
to be
but
taken out for her own safety? Wouldn't that have made more sense?
that's
And
the
then
plan. That's still the plan.
I
But
don't
what happened?
I
Because what
where are
happened
you
is like
hearing that's the plan? Because we're
well,
not hearing that's the plan, that
the
he's planning
person
on
in
putting her in
power
power.
right now is not who Trump wants to be in power. Okay, because even though we went out and took out Maduro, right? Maduro's vice president was still there. All of his generals were still there, right? It was a targeted attack to be able to take out the head honcho, who is the main
So
person to
you're
target.
telling me this plan that we had didn't work? Because that's what
No,
it
I'm
looks like to
saying
me.
no. Wait. Let me try to explain this to you, Sarah.
Sure.
It's so we took Maduro out of power. We haven't put boots on the ground in Venezuela yet. Possibly we might, right? But because we did that, we took the president out, but they still have a chain of command just like we do. So, right, if Donald Trump is taken out, JD
I see
Vance
what you're
goes into
saying.
his place,
But
right?
okay,
So
let's
the
talk about, so I
United
get it.
States is now no, and that but now so the United States' plan is to put Maria Machado, I'm pretty sure that's her name, the opposition leader who won the Nobel Peace Prize, into power. She has agreed with a lot of what Trump has said about and the military action to be able to free the Venezuelan people. And now Trump is putting economic sanctions. He's seizing all of the oil tankers, and he's putting more pressure on the current president who took place for Maduro to be able to step down and then have that regime change happen. But if not, then there's a possibility of boots in the grounds and doing it forcefully.
Now, but let's talk about, should he have been able to do this? Because that's no president. Imagine if Biden did this, Christopher. Wouldn't your
What's
side
the
be
difference
saying
between this? What's the difference between this and Osama and Barack Obama going and killing Osama bin Laden?
he went through channels and got like
He didn't get
everybody was,
congressional approval for that.
but Osama bin Laden wasn't a leader of a country. He was somebody that we had 100% proof of did 9/11.
Yeah, and we
So
have
it's
100%
different.
proof that Maduro kills his own people, that he's
What
worked with the
happened with
cartels to
Osama
traffic.
bin Laden was pretty favorable with the world. The world was on that side. This is
And the
not
world is on the
equal to
side of
that.
taking out Maduro.
We
If you
we
look at
have,
Venezuelans
but hang
right
on, we
now,
have all this
Venezuelans are
evidence.
extremely excited.
See, I'm not seeing that. I'm seeing a lot of fear. So I think that's I'm seeing
I don't know
there's
if
different.
I see fear from the Democrats in the United States, but if you look up any Venezuelan who knows that Maduro is out of power, there are parties in the
Are they
streets. People
still
are
partying because
celebrating.
the person in charge now is maybe worse?
Well,
So
that's
is
why
that still
regime
happening?
change is challenging, and Maduro is out
But
of power.
but
They are already been
Christopher, we
weakened.
have all this evidence that it doesn't usually work when we go into other people's governments, especially in South America, and we take over and we try to help. It usually makes things worse, and it usually makes America and the world less safe because it makes a lot more like terrorist groups. And so we've tried to we've tried to put our influence in lots of countries across the world. I'm not seeing a ton of them where we've helped.
Well,
Where's the
exactly. And
evidence that we're helping? So how is this going to actually help Venezuela, America, the world? How's it going to make it safer? I'm not seeing the proof if you are an intelligent person and you know history. And also, Donald Trump doesn't seem to be the most well organized person. He'll say one thing and then a second later he says something completely different. And so it's like we all, including I would imagine people in Europe, maybe would like Trump to be a little bit slower, more organized, more thoughtful, because this is a huge operation. What they did coming in with the special forces, and people were murdered. By the way, I can't remember the full count. If it's
it's
60
like
people
40,
died,
it was like 40
it
people
was
died.
40, but it's more now. They've
Okay.
released it's more now. I'm just
And
saying,
unfortunately,
yeah,
like
yeah.
we can't live in the perfect society and perfect world where everybody's going to have peace all the time, and you have to remember the history of Venezuela as well, because this started with Hugo Chavez, right? He was the one who brought socialism back. It was a petro state, and at the time under Chavez, petroleum was they were producing it at massive amounts. They were selling so many barrels everywhere, and Venezuela started to do well because their main source of their economy was oil, right? And then the petro state collapsed. That's when Maduro took over after Chavez died, and then they didn't have as much money and everything, and that's when and there was still drug influence, and the drugs and cartels went
but
like this with Maduro, and
Christopher,
Maduro is actively.
this is not about drugs. That is a lie. That the
If you don't think that the cartels and the Venezuelan government are working together, that's crazy.
Venezuela has oil money, gold money, all these resources. That is the reason America.
But two things can be true at the same time.
If it
Two things
really
can be
was
true at the same
about
time.
drugs, the Trump administration wouldn't be pardoning terrible drug people from other countries, and he's been doing that. So
But
so like
and it's not just about drugs, but the narco state. It is a narco state. The cartel is tied directly within the government and works within the government. It's not like Mexico
Well,
where
we're
you have.
still working with that government, Christopher. So my guess is that this has not been stopped.
But we're not saying we're not working with the Venezuelan people, the Maduro's, vice president right now. Trump wants that person out.
So is he gonna what? Are they gonna go back in and bomb the Capitol stuff again and take
So
over
this
more
is
people?
so this is when you talk about military strategy and you think about history and you understand what truly impacts Venezuela. Okay, we seized dozens of oil tankers off the coast of Venezuela, right? That is their economy. That's what drives everything. That and the drug money. And their economy has already collapsed. All right. The inflation is skyrocketing. You can't buy real goods for actual money. That's why millions of people are leaving. There's a massive humanitarian crisis going
Millions
on.
of
And
people are leaving
Maduro,
Venezuela.
yes,
Venezuela because
millions of
prices
people
are
have
too high. Okay.
have fled, not because prices are too high, because of the human rights violations, because
Yes.
of the not just oppression of people who are dissenting, but the murdering of people who are
But
dissenting.
but Christopher, to act like our administration cares about those people is pretty ridiculous when you look at what ICE
I'm
is
not
doing
saying that
right
there
now
isn't
to
an
our
underlying
people
narrative
with
here,
brown skin. I mean, come on. I just
but I
I just don't buy it when the Trump administration says they actually care about human lives because the evidence is not there to support that.
but you can and you can and that may be what they say and you may not believe it, but also at the same time this is the start of liberation for millions of Venezuelan people who
I'm
want it,
I
who need it.
personally, I'm okay. I'm okay if we actually end up helping Venezuela. That would be wonderful. And I would be the first to come out and say, I'm really glad the Trump administration did this. But right now, the facts show that is not happening. There is
But
not,
it's
those
not
people are
gonna we're not
not
gonna have
being
a regime
rescued.
change and everything's gonna
I
happen like
get it.
that.
But since then, the Senate, including Todd Young, Senator Republican from Indiana, voted to stop Trump from doing stuff like this. Like
Well,
he's
so
not
they
supposed to be
voted they
allowed
voted
without
against the War
congressional.
Powers Act. Yes,
Right.
for congressional approval for boots on the ground, and that's why Josh Hawley, who took that out of the Foreign Affairs Committee, right, they voted it out, saying they're going to bring this bill to the floor to be voted on. He voted to do it because he thought that Trump was infringing on the War Powers Act.
So
He flipped.
Republicans are
Yes, but
thinking
wait,
Trump
but
is
then he
overstepping his
flipped.
power.
He flipped and then voted against it after he said Marco Rubio assured him that there would be no boots on the ground in Venezuela. Okay, so if that isn't true, then go impeach him, do whatever, invoke War Powers Act, everything like that. But that is the situation we are in right now. We are
Do you
using
want
a
to
pressure
hear this is
campaign.
I just need to explain to you what is going on behind the scenes that you don't see. Christopher, you're 21, you're a college student. I'm 45. I'm actively involved in the Indiana state government. So I'm like, the amount of bullying that goes on in our government is wild to me. Okay. So I just got a tip from a Republican Indiana state senator that voted no to redistricting. Okay. We stood up to Trump bullying our state, who wanted to redistrict the congressional line so he could pick up 2 more seats in our state. We stopped that. One of the Republican senators, state senators that voted against it said Trump personally called him and said, if you don't vote yes on redistricting, they are going to impeach me. What you're seeing the national headlines. I'm telling you, behind the scenes, there is so much bullying going on from the
I'm
national
not denying that, but we were talking about
administration,
Venezuela.
and it is scary. So when you say somebody was going to do this and then they flipped and it looks like it's totally great reasons, I am behind the scenes hearing about all the bullying calls, all the things. Well, I'm going to take away aid here, and I'm going to take away tax dollars here, and I'm going to defund this thing you care about, and I'm going to primary you and get you voted out. That is the underhanded stuff that shouldn't be happening in America today. That is, I know it always happens a little bit, but it is
I completely
out of
agree with
control
everything that
right
you
now in our
just said.
country.
I
Right.
completely agree with everything you just said. And that all has to do with domestic policy. And this is foreign policy. And, you know, the president is in charge of his own foreign policy. Like Congress is not in charge of foreign policy unless we want to go to war. Right.
So you don't
Um,
think, this is just interesting as a Republican, you don't think that Trump overstepped his powers by kidnapping the Venezuelan president and wife?
No, I don't think so, because I think it was a standard military operation. We've done the same thing. Clinton
But
did the
don't you
same thing.
think it's ironic
Clinton
that
did the same thing
there's a lot
In
of
Haiti in
bad
the 90s.
there's a lot of bad there's a lot of bad dictators across the country. Isn't it ironic that they picked Venezuela that supposedly has, the most oil and gold and all these
Oh, I'm
things and
not
such a
saying that
powerful country?
that's not the underlying narrative at all, but Biden was the one who said Biden was the one who indicted Maduro in the first place and said that he needed to get taken out of power. Trump was the only one who actually acted on it and was successful in it. And do you know how hard of a military operation it is? Because he moved around, he would wear different clothes, he had body doubles to find where he is at that exact moment, go in, be able to kidnap him and his wife, and get out of the country with no casualties on the American side. That is an amazing operation, whether you like Trump or not. And militarily, they performed it extremely well, right? But this has been something that has been wanted and has been advocated for by both Democrats and Republicans for the past 10 years, because they know Maduro is a true narco terrorist who kills his own people, who does not accept the results of elections and keeps himself in power. That is the reason. And the indictment was under Biden for the human rights abuses. So Trump was just the one who followed through on it.
So, I'm willing to like give you some credit and see like, well, let's wait and see. But I'm very worried about the real human beings living in that country. And I am concerned because again, we have a history of doing this where the people in charge just don't seem to really care about human beings. We have a
Mm-hmm.
government, we'll switch to ICE in a minute, but we have a government right now that doesn't seem to care about Americans that get killed
Mm-hmm.
by their government. And so that's where it concerns me. I get what you're saying. I want to believe you. I want to believe that there is this great plan that they're going to bring the woman that won the Nobel Peace Prize in to rule
No,
Venezuela
and
and they're
I'm
going to
saying that's
save
his
the country.
intentions. I
I
was just
want that to
explaining.
happen. I just have a lot of doubts based on what the way this president and this government is treating Americans, what is happening now. I'm living in a place where I would not want them to come over and take control over another country. And
No,
also, our President Trump has done things that go above his powers. I know you agree with me on some of those things. He's gone above what the checks and balances are supposed to allow him to do. If another country viewed that and said, look at what he's doing, look at what ICE is doing, they're murdering American people and it's government sanctioned violence, we should stop him. What if another country, what if China used this as an example to come in, bomb the White House, and kidnap Trump and Melania?
first of
I'm
all,
just
if
saying, like,
First of all, being able to go fly into Venezuela to kidnap the president is a lot easier than flying into the United States and kidnapping the president. You would have to kill him. You would never be able to get in a distance where you could kidnap him at all. There's no
I'm just
way that
saying
any country could do that.
we're so entitled as Americans. I don't think we're thinking, wait a minute, we can go and do this to another country. Couldn't another country do? Doesn't it open it up though to make other countries less safe when we start doing it? Doesn't that cue Russia to be like, look, guess we can keep doing this because
Well,
America's
Russia,
doing it?
North Korea, China, they're all the ones that fund Venezuela because
Yeah, I get it, and I hope that that
Maduro
does
is.
I get that. I'm just saying it's like if we start participating and doing these things that supposedly this goes above our checks and balances, doesn't it open it up to our enemies saying, "Well, if America does it, we can do it, and you can't sanction us or do
Let me
anything
tell you
against
something,
us."
Sarah. Our enemies have hated us long before any of this happened.
But can't they use that as more reason to continue to do harm to the world?
They use good things we do as more reason to harm America. They hate everything we stand for. Like it depends on the country that you can go to, right? But they do not like we can go to Iran in a second, but freedom, a woman's right to vote, a woman's right to go outside her house without her husband next to her. They hate that about America. That's why they screamed and chant death to
Yeah, but
America. In
But
Russia, they
Christopher,
hate the fact that we have capitalism,
our
that we have a free market.
extreme government right now also wants to take rights away from women, and they are. So, like, I get what you're saying, but our own government right now is stripping away our American rights, and so
Other than because we could go because the abortion argument is one, but what rights is this government taking away from women right now?
in Indiana, they've proposed a bill this last week at the state house. I can't remember the specifics, but it's going through another checks and balances um to get care. Like if you need to get some type of operation where you can't have children, you have to go through another set of checks and balances so that through the government. So there's more like a hysterectomy. So there's more limits on women. Our Lieutenant Governor, Micah Beckwith, terrible human being. And he's a Christian nationalist pastor that's getting a lot of heat right now. If you asked him, do you want women to have the right to vote? I would like to hear his honest answer because I'm pretty sure it's going to be no. So
Yeah,
there are
and I
people in
don't
power
deny
that want
that.
to take away the right for women to vote. It is real. So many people
There's
told
no
me,
bill proposed for that right now, though.
right. But so many people told me before we lost Roe v. Wade that that would never happen. They were certain it would never happen, and it happened. So we kind of have to wake up.
But people were also screaming. There was a big coalition of pro-life people that were advocating for this ever since Roe was passed or Roe happened, right?
It wasn't a
But there
majority of the
isn't this
country,
massive group and coalition of people saying women shouldn't have the right to vote. It's a couple guys who never have talked to a woman in their life.
but some of
And
these guys are pretty prominent in the Republican culture now. I
and
don't have their
I'm not
names.
denying that. You have the people like
I'm
Nick
just saying
Fuentes. Oh my God, Nick
we've
Fuentes,
got,
the worst
is that
possible
him?
human being for young conservatives to listen to, saying that women don't deserve
So
the right to
I
vote.
want
All of this stuff.
more. I want more Republicans speaking out against the extremists in their party. We have got to have
Yes,
that right now because
yes,
the
yes, yes,
extremism
yes.
is extremely bad right now in Indiana and in a lot of places and nationally. So I'm glad that you say that. I think so many of my Democrat friends think every Republican is that. They think every Republican
Exactly.
is that terrible version. Yeah. Yeah,
And I think also, Sarah, like it's like that, and it's that fear thing that we talk about of like we're convinced by looking at social media and things like that that these things are real and they're more prominent than they actually are because one person is screaming about it, right? And they have a platform to be able to do that. But at the end of the day, there's so many different viewpoints, and it's sad to right now to see so many young conservatives flocking towards Nick Fuentes's of the world. But
are
also at
you
the same
seeing
time,
them? I'm just curious because you have a lot more Republican friends than I do. Are you seeing your Republican friends follow these people?
yes, but it's interesting the way that it is because you actually sit down and have a conversation with my friends who will listen to Nick Fuentes or things like that, and they'll say the guy's a fucking asshole, right? Excuse my language. Like
That's okay.
he's and he's crazy and psychotic, but he's fun to watch. That's why they like to watch him because he's controversial,
So
because
it's
he says crazy
entertainment.
stuff. It's an
Ugh.
entertainment. What I try to get across to them is like, okay, I talk to some of my friends, smart kids, right? They aren't as gullible or susceptible to specific things. So they can watch that, laugh at it, and walk away and not believe it. But there are so many young kids and young men specifically who are looking for these outlets, looking for these people to look up to get involved in politics, and are so susceptible to anything that they are told when they start to like somebody that is controversial, that is drama, right? That they start to believe the things that they're saying rather than understanding what their own personal values are and watching that video and then having an opinion and saying, you know what, I can agree with some of these things, but I don't agree with all of it. And I can disagree with other things. And that is also the problem with just politics in general. It's not just the younger generation of it. It's that we are so the leaders in our party are so far to the right and to the left that we have to put ourselves into a boat, right? Into one group or the other. Meanwhile, we don't really believe
They
those
even
things
speak completely different languages, right, Christopher? They speak
exactly.
completely different languages, and I
Like,
don't even know what either side's saying anymore. I don't understand.
and that's why
I don't
it's
speak
hard
the
for me
language.
sometimes Exactly. And it's hard for me sometimes to be around in a group of Democrats and say that I'm a Republican because the initial I see the facial reaction right away, right? And it's like, oh my God, they think he's a MAGA Trump loving, mega evangelist conservative. I'm
Now I
like,
see the word
no.
maggot and like on my side's off, and I'm like, oh, so nasty.
Oh no, I
Yeah,
said MAGA, MAGA.
yeah, no, my side's now calling people maggots,
Yeah,
maggots.
exactly. So like
Yeah,
what is that doing, right? So like,
it's
and
just
this is one
making
of
us
the
more
things that I've realized.
divided and more
We're fighting
fearful.
fire with fire. That doesn't work, okay?
It's
So
yeah,
you know what gets people to really understand and listen to somebody who's sane rather than screaming at each other like constantly. If you are the adult in the room, let the other person scream at you and be like, "Okay, thank you." And you keep your calm and your chill and you say, you may think those things, but this is what I believe in. I'm not going to get hot about it. I'm not going to start screaming about it, right?
but
Because
the
that makes the
internet
other
rewards
person
you for screaming at it.
exactly.
That's why we're doing it so much more than we used to. The internet, you get likes, you get views, you get attention. And then another problem I wanted to mention is this, like, the male loneliness epidemic is a really bad problem that is making more extremism. Most women are more liberal. Shocker, we don't want our freedoms to go away. We don't
Hmm.
want the government to be involved in our bodies. Um so women are more liberal, and when men are listening to the people you're talking about, the extremely far to the right extreme people who want to take women's rights away, it doesn't do well for their dating life. Like
No, oh my God.
they struggle to find a woman. And so this is making the extremism get worse because what woman is going to want to date that?
No, never. I mean, they asked Nick Fuentes. Somebody asked him if he was a virgin, and then he's
I
like, "I'm
heard
not
that.
answering that question," or something
I heard him he
like
say
that.
yes. I thought he said
Oh wait, maybe
yes.
he did say yes
He
to
said
that.
yes, and then he said, "Unfortunately, I'm attracted to women, and I don't want them
yes,
to be able
yes.
to vote." And I was
Like,
like,
come on,
"What? This
dude.
is who people
Like,
are
I'm
listening
sorry, you
to?"
got a little man complex. Like, go figure it out, dude. Don't be screaming
But
about it because
but
it.
so your side, the far to not you, but the Republicans, the far to the right side is pushing control your woman. Control your woman, and then we're saying, "Oh, we don't want that." And then
But here's
they're
the
using their hurt because she said no to me to go even farther deeper down. And so
yeah.
I'm concerned about that.
And I think the problem is, and I think this is on both sides, right? When you see like or Republican news, right, on your feed, it's going to be Nick Fuentes saying some crazy shit, right?
Yeah, like because
But
I heard that comment. I did, and I try not to listen to that stuff. And I knew what
no,
you were talking
exactly.
about.
Neither do I, but sometimes I want to listen to it just to hear the craziness that he's talking about so I can refute it to people. Um, but no, but I have so many Republican friends, so many adults, young kids, everything. They don't believe that. They don't believe that. But we are being grouped in with Nick Fuentes because he has such a
Yes.
platform,
So
right?
you're saying
That
most
everybody
Republicans aren't
believes that.
believing this.
Most
Right.
Republicans don't believe
No,
that. But it's unfortunate that.
My Democrat friends believe it. And so that's why I like to have you on to be like, you're a wonderful human being. You love everybody. You're for equal rights. And to just shine a light. There's a bunch of Republicans like you. Another thing is, a bunch of Republicans don't watch the news like we do. And they
Mhm.
don't know this stuff is going on. So they just kind of think the Democrats are ridiculous when we're shining a light and shouting, "You are this and this and this." And they're like, "What are you talking about? I'm just taking care of my family and going to
But
work."
it's
And
also yeah, exactly. But it's also when the Democrats scream like that at them, you put your back up, right? If I'm getting
it makes
attacked,
you more
right,
extreme. It makes you
by
like your
somebody.
side more. Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
exactly. If I'm getting attacked for something that like I identify as correct, I'm going to put my back up and I'm going to attack you back, right? Like that, and that's not. And the result of that is more extremism on both sides and less communication between both sides, right? It's more about okay, wait, we have a disagreement right now. It may get hotter, or, it may go up and down, but let's get to some kind of resolution at the end of this. Okay. I don't want to just scream at you and you not listen to me and you do the same thing back. Right. There needs to be a point of resolution. And I think, Sarah, the best thing that you have said that I say to everybody now is that Republicans and Democrats, the majority of them, right? We want the same things, but we have very different ways of getting there, right?
Yes.
And that's what we need to talk about. So let's start where we can agree. Let's
Right.
start on saying, okay, it was right that Maduro was taken out of power. He needed to go. We agree on that. The way in which it happened, we could disagree on and argue about. And the way in which the regime change may or may not happen, we can disagree on and speculate about and say what we think that's going to happen, right? But at the end of the day, we want freedom and human rights and a good life for the Venezuelan people, right? That is non-negotiable for either of us, right? And there may be other factors within the government, like oil, which is definitely a huge factor for Trump right now, especially because one of his campaign promises was bringing down the price of oil, right? That is definitely an underlying narrative, and we can't negate that, but we can also accept and acknowledge the fact that it was a successful military operation that got a human rights abuser, falsely elected leader out of a dictatorship country and opens the possibility to democracy for the Venezuelan people.
And we're just going to have to wait and see. You
exactly.
and I can talk about this. We can talk about this in a few months as more things progress. At first, I was very alarmed. And then the news I'm getting doesn't sound great. Like, for example, we don't actually know how much oil this country has because lying dictators have been in charge for a while. That's one issue. And then also, it's not safe enough for like oil people in America that make a lot of money, that have cushy jobs. They're not going to go to Venezuela right now.
No, that's why the United States military is seizing the oil tankers. I mean, we just did a deal. We got $500 million in our first deal for Venezuelan oil. I know, but then some of that money went to a Qatari bank account, which I don't understand.
After this happened, he acts like he's going to take Greenland. He acts like he's interested in Mexico. He's saying all these crazy things about other countries.
It's insanity. It's actually insanity.
So can you understand why we're having some anxiety over here?
1000% I can understand it. And I have anxiety over it too, right? And I'm like, oh my God, nothing is going to be solved until this guy is out of office. Right?
Until Trump is out of office?
Yes.
This is a Republican saying this, you all.
I'm sorry, but in terms of like unity and peace domestically, right? And not constantly hating the people in power or hating each other, he needs to be out of office for that to happen. And I say do it, and
so if they do, if Trump called a state senator, I have a tip from somebody that told me this, that said if we didn't do redistricting, he was going to get impeached. Let's say that he does get impeached and people have to take a vote. Would you support Republicans voting to impeach him?
I would have to see what the charges were first. I wouldn't just say I'm going to impeach this guy, because there are standards and ways in which it needs to be brought up. With him it's tricky because the first impeachment he shouldn't have been impeached for the first thing, for the Russiagate, right? So like there is already this, and it's true, this like political retribution almost from Democrats and from Republicans, just going after each other with indictments, things like that. Like, and so he's saying it's retribution, but right, like I said before, you can't fire with fire. Two wrongs don't make a right. If you're doing the same thing that you were screaming about the other side was doing, why is it okay that you're doing it now? Right?
Yeah, it's just interesting. I know that it's very hard to actually get an impeachment to happen, but it just is comforting to know that you are also alarmed and you're ready for this person to not be president anymore. I just wish more Republicans said that. I think that exactly, because that would help.
And he most likely will be impeached if Democrats take over Congress. And like I actually don't have a problem with Democrats holding both chambers for the next 2 years, because he needs a counterweight. He needs a counterweight in there.
So you support the primary, or this next election in November 2026. You support Democrats getting control of the Senate and the House.
It depends on the election, because we're starting to see some defectors within the party, which I'm excited about, but a lot of them are leaving, just like Marjorie Taylor Greene just left.
I know, Thomas I just started liking
her. Exactly. But she left because Trump said, if you oppose me, I'm going to primary somebody against you and you're going to lose.
Friends. I have friends that have been personally bullied by Trump administration. Ed Clear, Republican state house rep in my area. I know him. I'm friends with him. I'm friends with his brothers. He had that scary bomb threat thing, the SWAT
Mm-hmm.
thing. He was swatted because he
Yep.
was saying no to redistricting. This is real. If you are in the Republican Party right now and you say no to Trump, you face scary bullying. And I just want to say the Democrats, I see bullying on the Democrat side. Trust me, Indiana State Democratic Party is a bad toxic place in some areas, not the whole thing, but in some. But they're not doing that. I'm not
Mm-hmm.
worried about, since I speak out against Democrats in my state, I'm not worried about them doing that to me. But the Republicans standing up for what's right, they're legit having scary things happen to them, and that is wrong. We have
I couldn't
got to
imagine
be.
having my views as a Republican and be in a position of power right now with this administration, because
You would have
I
been
I
bullied
would have been
out, I
primaried
guess, or
against.
voted out and
I would have been
primaried
bullied
out.
out. I would have been same thing that happened with Marjorie Taylor Greene, right? And it's
I mean, Marjorie
it's
Taylor Greene had
sad.
to leave for her safety. She had to
Mm-hmm.
leave for her safety, you all, for the family, for the safety of her children. And this is
Exactly. And then
terrifying.
terrifying. And then when you have, the when Senator Mark Kelly, they released the videos with the other combat veterans and just veterans, about like, you do not have to comply with illegal orders, right? Trump tweeted about that and said that this was punishable by death, that he said that. And it's like, the president of the United States is saying that something which was completely within Mark Kelly's rights, to tell people that if you're in the military and you're given an illegal order, you don't have to obey it, saying that that's punishable by death. The president of the United States is saying that. All of his supporters are going to be like, let's go kill Mark Kelly right now.
I know.
How is that sane?
Christopher, I'm having my own bullying here. I have my own fears here because I track corruption in my county. And the main guy I'm shining a light on made a fake post about me saying that I'm stalking him and harassing him and he's going to sue me and he's going to put out an EPO against me. I could be doing that against him because he's the one that stalks me. And I'm like, are people reading this, what he's putting on Facebook? Are they thinking I'm a monster? Could they hurt me? This stuff can get scary. And I'm like,
Mm-hmm.
well, I'll do a show about it. So Tim and I did a show about it, and I shine a light on what he's doing, hoping that he knows not to do that again. But it's exhausting and it stresses me out. And this is just at a county level. Can you imagine the national level? It is
No,
intense, you all. And we've got to stop that. We have to say no to that. We have to say we vote better. We vote better. We have an election coming up. We have a primary in Indiana, May 5th. We vote. Then we go in November. We vote for the not extreme candidates on both sides. But on
well,
my side, on the Republican side here, Christopher, in Indiana and in my county, if you are a decent Republican that will stand up to the corrupt people I'm talking about, they won't let you win the primary.
no, not at
So
all, because
that
they'll
is
call
a
you a
problem.
rhino. Yeah,
That's a
because
problem.
and if you don't kiss the ring, then you can't be part of the group. It's literally like high school mean girl friend group. And that's also the problem that I've always said with the two-party system. And I talk to a lot of people here. They're not all from Portugal. They're all around. And in a lot of these countries, there aren't two parties. There are 4 or 5 parties, right? And there's the extremes on each side, and then there's the parties that are more in the middle.
And
And
don't they
like
more times pick the more in the middle people? Is that what normally
yes,
happens with them?
yeah, it
Because like
depends on
I'm thinking
what
of
the state of the
Canada.
country is, right? But it would
Canada's
be
prime
split. It's
minister
like
was
25,
like,
25, 25, 25, right? The
yeah.
voter, but that also shows how diverse in opinions the electorate is. And our electorate right now, I'm pretty sure it was Pew Research Center just did a poll. 45% of Americans self-identify as independents. That's almost half
Yes,
of
I saw
Americans
that
that
too.
self-identify as
Yes,
independents.
that's good
Okay.
news for.
So it's an amazing news, but it's showing that representation isn't in Congress right now. That representation isn't in
No,
the
there's not
presidency right now.
45% independence, are there? No.
No,
And that
not at
just
all.
shows.
Or at
I
least
just want
even
to show my
moderates.
my Democrats that are watching this, my Democratic friends that are watching this. The majority of Republicans are not like this. They're not extreme, terrible people. And the majority of Democrats are not this extreme, hateful bully version that you see online. And I get
Hmm.
Democrats that say, "What are you talking about? We don't bully." Oh, I get it a lot. Just for me saying I have Republican friends, most Republicans are good. I get bullied by my side. Nothing to the extreme that these Republicans are. It's not the same. It's not as bad,
It's
but it
different.
still
It's
happens.
different.
It's
It's
different. Yeah,
different
it's different.
because I see it
So
on my side too. And it's more
now,
about demeaning me for being the person I am because they assume that I have specific opinions, which I don't.
right,
And saying
right.
that I am a
Yeah.
terrible person, right? Like
I
that,
vote
like I don't
Democrat
deserve
right
to
now.
live, things like that, because I say I'm a Republican. Just because I say I'm a Republican.
That's ridiculous to I'm sorry you get that. That hurts my heart. That's ridiculous. Man, I I want to know what your thoughts are with ICE from I'm not your thoughts. I want to know what you're learning from your friends and like you're going to what a high school and hearing
Yeah.
things. I want to know what they
Hmm.
think about ICE because ICE has gotten first of all, not everybody knows in America what's going on with ICE. I know that everybody thinks we do, and everybody thinks we either have one extreme thought or the other extreme thought. And in my, I don't think the left is extreme on this view. So I don't have a problem with the part of the left's view on what's happening with ICE. I align with it, but, but it's these views where like people are saying this woman deserved to be murdered by our
No.
government,
And then Trump
and they're
tweeting
making her
about
out to
it.
be they're making her out to be this terrible activist terrorist, and
Hmm.
it's government sanctioned violence, and there's not going to be a trial, there's not going to be any sort of justice, and there's fake AI images, and the far to the right are pumping out fake things about it. I've gotten a lot on the comments about it on my shows, and I want to know what are they saying about it in Portugal. I'm just really interested in hearing
Yeah,
that.
no, I think that they think it's absurd and like not normal at all. And and they see it as an authoritarian dictatorship, literally using the military to go after its own people. And I was all for using ICE to be able to round up the criminals and the people that actively harm our country. But when I see situations in which a mother is being ripped out of her car from her child and screaming and not knowing what's going on, when an unmarked car comes up to her and doesn't show her a warrant for her arrest and just rips her out and puts her in a car and takes her somewhere, that's not human. That isn't the way that this process should work. And do I believe that the people here illegally should do something to be able to right that error because they didn't wait online? Sure. Make it be a stiff fine. Make them pay a little bit extra in taxes once they become a citizen, or you put them on the pathway to citizenship so they can contribute that back to the country. But at the end of the day, we need immigrants. All right. A lot of our farm labor, food industry,
You
everything.
you know, Christopher, right now we're getting better internet put in. We're getting what is it, the cable, the fiber internet put in. And every single person that I've seen do this back-breaking work, they're like taking these like jackhammers and they're like vibrating into the ground. They have brown skin. Every single one of them. They are doing work that other Americans don't want to do. And it's really cold and the ground is frozen and they are out there. And so
Mhm.
what we're supposed to be terrorizing these people? I'm I'm like, so it's really refreshing to hear, and I believe you feel this way. You feel that what
Yeah.
you're saying other
No,
people
I
are
mean, and
seeing,
and
you
and
feel
from the
this way too.
a human perspective too, like my sister's a fourth grade teacher in Washington D.C. My mom's an assistant principal. My sister has her students emailing her at night saying that they're afraid that their parents are going to be taken, right? That their parents aren't leaving the house and things like that. And how do you think as a teacher, and then they're coming in the next day terrified that somebody's going to come and they're going to go home and their parents aren't going to be there because ICE took them and they're not going to know where they are?
Yeah,
That
that's
isn't
what, and
human.
that's, and like when we first started talking about this, you didn't fully know what was going on. That was so interesting to me. That shows that the Republican side
I
aren't
also think
always
there's been
getting
an
the truth.
evolution in it too, and I think it's
No,
it's
it hasn't.
escalated.
I've been
It's
following it
escalated.
way more than you
No,
have
I know,
because I
like, but
have it
I'm saying
happen.
those instances before, for
Yes.
me, at least what I saw, were few and far between, and now it's a lot more consistent.
But like we have the Clark County prison down here, Indiana. Our governor, Mike Braun, fully loves ICE, does anything they ask, supports them. So our
Well, of
police is
course,
helping
but if
them.
Braun
We've
does
got
anything
multiple
if
prisons
if
in Indiana
if
being
Braun
used
does
to
anything
hold.
against Trump, he's going to get voted out. I mean,
So it's so where I'm at as opposed to where you're at in a blue area is very different. That's why I'm like,
Mhm.
we know real people getting harassed by ICE, and it's very scary. So
No, but
it
it's still, even though they're federal, so it's like New York can do what it wants, but there's still ICE everywhere.
oh man, it's so interesting. So yeah, thanks for talking about that. And I did a show with Pastor Rich Genzero, who's covering this, and he's the one that gave me the term that I'm using now, government sanctioned violence. That's what this is government sanctioned violence with no accountability. So it's gonna be more.
Oh,
I knew this
actually,
was
I
gonna
saw
happen.
Department of Homeland Security gave, I forget what it exactly was, like First and Fourth Amendment legal refresher, and it was literally for ICE agents, and it was a PowerPoint presentation and being like, you cannot physically assault somebody if they, like, it is not a illegal under section whatever for a person to scream obscenities at you, or scream at you and say things to you. Like, if they're not physically being violent, then there's no reason for you to be doing anything to them, right? And
So
they
they're
and
giving
DHS
that
had to
to
do a
like
legal
ICE,
refresher. They're giving that to ICE, exactly.
but there's no accountability when they are violent. So why would they listen?
No, because, well, why would they, and why would they stop doing it when the president is enabling them and tweeting that it
And
was a good thing?
the vice president. So I heard we have one account of Trump seeing the video and saying like that's terrible, but it's not a video. It's just somebody wrote down what he said. But then the vice president, who is a lawyer, came out and said it's not only is it acceptable, he seemed to be igniting it and saying, we're stopping a bad terrorist or whatever. And so that's when I really started getting scared, when the vice president said his own comments. And I'm sorry because I'm not saying them word for word. But did you hear what his comments were?
I didn't hear JD's
He
comments on that.
basically said that there was going to be no accountability because at the beginning they were acting like they were going to look into it, and then it switched,
Hmm.
to nope, no accountability. And that's when I got really alarmed, because they weren't even just saying the most basic thing of we should not allow this is bad, this and like the thinking that the country's not going to care when a white woman mom gets murdered by our government is very stupid on the Republican Party's fault. I don't care how extreme people are online, the majority of human beings are upset about that. So if it's really dangerous and stupid of them to continue to follow down this extreme path. Guess what? Americans don't want to be murdered by our government.
No, exactly. Or live in fear every day,
Like we
right?
have to
That's
carry our
It's
information
like
with
it's like
us
exactly
everywhere.
like a militarized state, right? Like you're afraid about like being checked by it's like North Korea being afraid, like, as you're walking down, that one of the government officials with the big AR-15 is going to come and search you or something like that, right? Like, we still have First Amendment rights here and
I
Fourth
want to
Amendment rights.
Okay, thanks for telling me all this. You're making me feel better because it's been really I'm just glad you're out of the country. I wish I was out of the country.
It's
I wish
very
I
it's
could.
very nice to see it from an outsider
And to not
perspective,
have the
and
division sound so nice.
no,
To
and to be
just
surrounded
look
by
at it
people who
newsworthy, like
exactly, be
factual.
surrounded by people who look at it from a more unbiased lens. I'm not going to say it is completely unbiased in which they look at, because everybody has their own
It's hard.
opinions and
Everybody has a little
underlying
bit of
beliefs,
bias.
right?
Yeah.
And a lot of these people are from the States but decided to move here. So they have those political ideas. But just like I said, for the people who have actively lived under dictatorships and authoritarian regimes um, in these countries, they see too many similarities to what they experienced with what Trump is doing. And that's what scares them. And we don't have enough of a history to really have seen what would happen if we had a president like this. I still believe that, our founders created our country and wrote our constitution and created our institutions. So if even somebody came in and tried to be a dictator, they couldn't completely be a dictator. And, we would be able to move on from them, right? And hopefully that is what's able to happen. And hopefully our institutions stay strong, and they always have. And I hope they continue to do so.
Yeah, but
Um,
you're changing your language here because when we first started doing this show, you were very confident that our institutions were going to hold and we were going to be fine. Are you a little bit
no,
less
I'm
confident
confident that the
now, or
institutions will hold.
okay? Because
No, I'm
I am
very confident that
too. I'm
No, I
confident that
am.
institutions will hold, but I also don't know how bad things are going to be before we get better people in power.
Well, exactly. That's what my thing is that I don't know what state, the country, the party, everybody's going to
I
be
know
in
we
2
can
years.
rebuild and we can come back from it, but how
100%.
many individual human beings in this country are going to be harmed before that happens? Like we're really doing an attack on people that are homeless or people that are super poor that become hopeless. We're
I
really
mean, we
doing a attack in our state and nationally to like
NPR
criminalize them and stuff. And
exactly. NPR reported that up to $6 billion in mental health funding was just cut. Like,
and
what is
that's
that doing?
we need more mental health funding than
We
ever.
need more, more, more.
And we
That's our
need to help our
biggest
cops.
problem, the
We need to
mental
help our
health crisis
teachers.
going
We
on.
need to help like all these people,
And guess
you know.
what? Everybody screaming at each other is not good for anybody's mental health.
And I'm if you are struggling, if you are listening to this right now and this news is struggling, is harming your mental health, turn it off. Worry about
Yeah,
put yourself first.
do it. Do
I
it.
can't watch everything. There's only so many times I can see that video of that woman being murdered. I mean, come on, this is hard. Uh, and then just realize most humans are good, but also I feel like most Americans are scared. I
Yep.
think most of us that are paying attention are scared, regardless of who we're voting for. If you're a big Trump loving person, you're scared. If you're a big Biden, Kamala loving person, you're scared. And if we can just acknowledge most of us are scared right now and most of us are good, that would help us a lot because the online extremism, when I saw this murder happen, I was like, this is just going to make the division worse. This is going to make more people get hurt. This is going to make the extremists get more to power on both sides. This is
Mm-hmm.
terrible in many, many ways. And I mean, don't you feel that way? Like
Yeah, no,
it's
of course. I'm completely disheartened with the way our government is operating right now. Um, but that also doesn't completely mean, and that's why it's hard to be in this position, but so many people are, and yet because of social media, it doesn't allow them to be shown. But like, it doesn't mean that I disagree with every single thing that the Trump administration has done either, right?
yeah, and you've really helped me to see, and it makes my mental health feel better, that not every single thing he's doing is completely horrible.
Mm-hmm.
Sometimes being kind of bullying and authoritarian like and making somebody do something, sometimes that helps us. I don't
Mm-hmm.
necessarily think that's the best way to do it,
I mean, he's a
but
businessman. He was the deal maker, right?
and I don't know,
Exactly.
but yeah, but we have all this evidence that he also doesn't manage things particularly great. I mean,
No, God, no. I mean, he was a terrible businessman. I mean,
so
like
yeah,
he went
so
bankrupt.
that's
He
scary.
like,
Like he ran on this promise of being this great businessman that was going to run America like a business, but he doesn't do a good job running his businesses, hence the concern. But
mhm.
sometimes some not terrible things do happen with this administration, but I'm going to say the majority of the things he's doing are terrible.
Yeah,
And
I mean,
but
there's
whereas
probably more
my
things
side
that I
says
could say that I
100%.
disagree with than I agree with. But there's still a lot of things that I agree with that he's done, and
And
that
see,
are
that's from you.
just
I'm getting this
typical
from you.
Republican policies, though. Like it's like typical fiscal conservatism, things like
Our
that. But even with
side,
fiscal conservatism, like he's not fiscally conservative at all.
no. And he also said when he was running for president the second time that he wasn't going to take over other countries' governments. He said that.
No, he said multiple times, no regime change, no regime change, America first. I thought we were going to become an isolationist country and not give a shit about anybody else, but apparently we have our hand in every single other person's business. And
Yeah.
now with Greenland, right? Okay, like this is my thing about Greenland. And Mitch McConnell went on the Senate floor today and he spoke out against Trump going into Greenland. So you see the fractures already happening within the
Yeah, that
party,
is
right?
encouraging. That is
But
encouraging.
the unfortunate thing is Mitch McConnell's retiring, right?
So I
Only
guess
the
that gives him,
people who are speaking out against Trump aren't worried about reelection.
yeah,
And that's very disheartening, right? Because those are the
yeah.
people that we need in there right now. Because Mitch McConnell said today, what is the purpose of going after Greenland, right? Other than like we have our military operations there already, right? They are a sovereign nation. There is no reason that we need to take over them to benefit more than we are now, right? Other than to alienate our NATO allies, they're a NATO ally.
Yeah,
And
I'm really
all the
worried
other
about
and
that,
all the other
that we're
countries,
losing our
France,
friends.
they're all sending troops to
Smart,
Greenland to prepare,
yes,
right? So
smart countries that have good rulers, that are unity building rulers. The countries we want to be associated with are trying to protect themselves and other countries against America, and that is not good for America and the world, right? I mean,
no,
that's
not
not
at
good.
all.
We want to be working with these countries.
Of course.
Yeah, yeah.
And if we want and the rare earth minerals there and everything like that, Trump's the deal maker. Why can't he make a deal for it? He just wants to be able to say, "I got Greenland," right?
And they
And
also, he's
we
also
can still
doing a lot
benefit
of
and
this.
get everything that we want from them without taking over.
I feel like Indiana plays a part in this some, because it made Trump look weak when he wasn't able to redistrict. And then the Epstein files mess that, we can't get the truth out about what powerful people harmed young people. We can't get the truth about that. So he's trying to make diversions. So I feel like
Yeah,
some
I
of
mean,
this
and like
stuff is him scared.
The DOJ just went and like raided and searched a Washington Post reporter's house, right?
Oh
Like
my gosh.
that's part of authoritarianism. Like that is
That's
like
scary.
the repression of media, like the repression of opposition.
I mean, I have my own media company here, and I go after local corruption here, and my own bully is going after me and accusing me of stalking him, and so I absolutely know what this feels like, and it is stressful.
Yeah,
And
it's stressful. And it makes
I'm always
and
scared somebody's gonna believe it and try to harm me or my children or something. I mean, it is stressful, but you have to just shine a light on the bullying behavior over and over again.
yeah.
And I see these brave people like Andy Brashear, like Pete Buttigieg, lots of brave people coming out and saying, this is wrong, this is what they're doing. And they're just kind of being fact based. I like the fact based, we have to call a light on it. We need to vote better. And,
Well, that's also the
um,
great thing about the Democratic Party right now is that you guys don't have a leader, right? You're looking for your next leader, correct? So there
yeah.
can be a diversity of thought, but one major thing of like, we don't like what Donald Trump is doing, but Andy Bashir and Pete Buttigieg, similar, but they don't have exact same policies, right? So you guys have the opportunity to go and listen and be okay with listening to other members of your party, right? Who might be your
Whereas
president.
on your
If
side, it's
on
he
my
listens to
side,
Trump.
you listen to Trump, right? I was a huge Nikki Haley supporter. I worked for Nikki Haley. I wrote in Nikki Haley during the election,
Think how
right?
much better life would be right now if Nikki Haley were
Oh my
president.
God, oh my God, oh my God. But just because I was Nikki Haley and was a part of that, it was like, I can't believe you're going against the party. How would you go? She's a traitor. She's a neocon. I'm like, okay, who's the neocon now going into
Yeah,
every
it's the
single
fact that
other
we're just,
country, right? A
if you associate
warmonger.
yourself with
I'm
a
like,
R's are evil, D's are evil, R's are great, D's are great. No, people, we're all different. Let's just calm down with the rhetoric of you have to be all this way and all this way. Yeah. And I interviewed Bo Bai last week. Did you see that, Christopher?
I didn't see that. I saw that you did it. I didn't watch the
I
video
was
though.
really happy to be able to get that interview because he doesn't give a lot of interviews out. And Bo Bai gets attacked from the far to the left of the party. And I texted him today, and he texted me back about that. And he said, we are going to welcome all of those people. All those people
Oh,
that are bullying him, he said, Sarah, we are going to welcome them and we are going to make the state better for them. He texted me
yep,
that today. And I'm like, that's
100%.
the type of people we need, the unity building people.
Because no
So I have
matter
high
who,
hopes.
because if you
I
get
have high hopes
elected,
for
no
you.
matter who
Yeah,
voted for you, you represent everyone.
everybody. And so I just want to
Everybody.
say, Bo Bai seems to be a person that is unity building by the fact that he is currently being bullied and he's saying they're welcome. They're welcome to come in here. I'm
Of
not going to
course.
say one bad thing about them. I
And
care
guess
about
what?
them.
Guess what? People hate that because they want to scream at everybody. And just like all you in the comments right now, how about you go outside and you have a
Touch some grass.
conversation, touch some grass and have a conversation with the person instead of, hiding behind your computer screen and doing it. That is how we make change. That's how we realize that we have more
But they're
similarities than we do
scared, Christopher,
differences.
because they've been
Exactly.
told that their neighbors are terrifying and they're believing it. And we're trying to say, don't believe the hate online. It's fake. It's fake. Yes, it creeps out. Yes, it becomes real because people believe it, but it's mostly fake. I care about you. Those of you commenting, the
Same
hateful
here.
comments,
All
care
you
about
people
you,
say
care
the
about you.
wispy kid with the you say I had a lisp. Great, thanks. I don't
Oh
care.
my gosh, you don't have a lisp. Yeah, I
don't
get
think so
called I
either.
get called lesbian. If I have another woman on the show with me, I get called a lesbian. And I'm
Okay,
like,
no,
is that
that's
an insult? Because I'm not, but I love everybody. I don't
exactly
get
the
it.
people
But
who
anyway,
do that have more personal problems
it's
than
them. Yeah, it's
and
their
they're
biggest
just
insult.
deflecting. They're
Oh
just
my gosh.
deflecting, right?
But yeah, this is the
Hi,
problem.
everybody.
They're believing the extremism online that's fake. People are profiting of it. I gotta go. Thank you so much for doing the show. I miss you. I miss you in
I
another
miss you too.
country. I'm glad you're there. Thank
Yes,
you
me
for
too.
making time for me. And I'm just so happy for you, my friend. I love you so much. Thanks for being my friend.
Of course. Thank you for being my friend. I always love these conversations, Sarah. And look at
Yeah,
this. We don't agree on everything. It could get heated a
you
little
do
bit,
not
but
understand how much I love Christopher, you guys. I
and
love him so
same here with
much.
Sarah, right? So
Yeah,
that's what you should all do. Get out of the comments, go touch some grass, and talk to somebody with a different opinion than yours and be civil about it because that's
yeah.
how we're going to get out of all of this.
Do it with love. Find a common ground, find empathy, realize the other side is scared. And that's why they're saying these hateful comments. They are scared. We are all scared.
And
So just,
start where you're similar, right?
yeah,
Nikki
start where you're
Haley said her
similar.
mother. Nikki Haley said she was the only brown girl in South Carolina going to school, and her mother said it's not to show them how you're different; it's to show them how you're similar. That's how you
That's
start with
cute. I like that.
relationships, right?
That's nice.
It's to start with, okay, what do we agree on and what we have similarities on? Create that rapport in that relationship, and then you can start talking about the things you disagree on. But because you've established that strong, trusting connection, you don't have to scream at each other and hate each other because you have different opinions.
And smile. Just smile
Smile.
at the people. Just care about them, even if they think things that are very different from you. Just have some love. I know it's hard. I have to remind my friends constantly because they are traumatized from this ICE murder. They are traumatized, Christopher. And I'm
Mm-hmm.
constantly reminding them most people are against this and they are scared. So, love to everybody. Love to you. Stay safe. Stay safe to everybody. And thank you for those of you that are getting involved in politics and trying to make life better. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Thank you,
Let's do this
Sarah.
again. Let me know when you have time. Yeah. Thanks for making time for me all the way in
Yeah, of
Portugal.
course. I mean, the timing worked out perfectly, so we could do
Keep
this again
sending
in a couple
me
weeks.
vacation. Keep sending me pictures, please. That make me very happy.
I will. Definitely, I
Okay.
will.
All right.
Goodbye to
Bye, you
everybody in the
guys.
comments. Love you all.
Love you all. Bye, you guys.